now for financial focus. And these days, food, gas, just everything seems to be getting more and more expensive, which means personal loans are becoming more and more popular. So what do you do when a family member or a friend asks you to borrow money? Well, joining us to talk about this is KTNV financial analyst Steve Budin. Steve, this is kind of an unusual financial focus that we're focusing on today.
We could spend 30 minutes on this versus 3 minutes, so we'll keep it brief. But everybody's been put into this situation, right? You have a friend or a family member who comes to you for a loan, and you very often don't know what to do about it. So, a couple of things. Number one, you always have to keep in the back of your mind your financial situation, right? The priority should be you. Now, again, I'm not saying this is easy. This has happened to all of us. But when you're considering these things, remember one thing: the statistics are overwhelmingly showing that if somebody asks you once, that's not the only time they're going to ask. So it's very important to set up parameters or boundaries the very first time, because chances are it won't be the last.
All right, now I do have a friend who loaned some money to his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law never paid him back. They had to see each other at the family Christmas party. And before the party, the brother-in-law texted him saying, "I'm sorry, I still don't have the money, but I hope we can have a good time." I mean, that just turned into a Christmas gift, it sounds like.
Right, and that's the other important thing is make sure if you lend somebody something, it doesn't turn into a gift. This gets very delicate, but it's very important that if you do decide to lend somebody in your family or not money, you can put it in writing. You have to set out defined parameters to let this person know that you mean business. This is a business transaction, and they should be held responsible accordingly.
So what if you're on the other side of this? Is it a good idea to ask or to borrow money from a family member or a friend?
Again, very, very touchy, but the average person does feel some guilt going to somebody that they know, because they feel shame, they feel embarrassed. So both sides in the transaction do have some, eggshells to walk on. I think if you're going to ask, you should have some sort of plan in place. Hey, Rachel, can you lend me $1,000 because I got into a car accident, the car needs to be repaired, and I can pay you back $100 a week for the next 10 weeks. The person hearing that will be more likely to lend you the money if you show them that you have some sort of plan. And usually if it's a one-time situation, you're more than likely to get it. But put yourself on the other side of the table. If somebody comes to you and asks you want to ask, my first question would be, okay, what are you going to do with the money? What's the plan to pay me back? So if you have that already prepared, chances are you'll do better. But it's very important that you show up and pay them back, or else you'll have that Christmas party issue like you had with your friend.
And what about you? Have you had any personal experience with this?
Well, in my practice, I tell my clients, if this does happen, feel free to blame me. If you do want to say no and you feel embarrassed, say my financial advisor doesn't think it's a good idea, my tax person doesn't think it's a good idea, because it's going to set me back financially. If you can deflect blame onto somebody else, very often that person won't be as upset with you when you're saying that you got advice from a professional that said it wasn't a good idea. Let them be mad at me versus somebody else.
And that's the truth. Financial advisors will probably say no. Do not lend anybody money. You can't afford it. You have it. They have a tougher hill to climb when you have to convince a financial advisor to make the loan. Well, thank you so much for advising us on what to do, even if we do want to borrow money. Really great advice that you gave there, to have a plan in place to present almost like a business proposal that you do for your friend. Steve,
exactly.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Sure.
And we'll be right back after this.